Today we're diving into a hot topic, the large-scale border and immigration package recently introduced by the House GOP. So here's the deal. There's a rule called Title 42, which was put in place during the pandemic and ended on May 11th. The GOP, that's the Republican Party, has put together a big plan that combines 3 different bills. One of these bills could basically stop people from seeking asylum, which is when people come to the US for safety. The timing is pretty important because they're trying to get this new plan passed. If this happens, it could really change how we deal with immigration in the US, and it might even stop people from being able to seek safety here. Now President Biden has hinted at vetoing the bill, and there's slim to no chance it will reach the needed 60 votes in the Senate. However, this bill still holds significance, as it shows us where the Republican Party's stance on immigration is heading, as this issue of immigration is once again under the spotlight. So what does the GOP's border package actually propose when it comes to humanitarian protections? Well, first off, the bill threatens the existing asylum system, both procedurally and in terms of the law. It seeks to limit the universal right to asylum to only those who arrive at a port of entry, and further restricts it to those who have unsuccessfully sought asylum in any third country they've passed through. Essentially, this would exclude asylum for many, including Cubans, Venezuelans, and anyone not from Mexico, visa holders, or those unable to afford a direct flight to the US. Moreover, it would prohibit asylum for several new groups, such as anyone who has lived undocumented in the US for more than a year, or anyone who hasn't declared even a tiny amount of income to the IRS. The bill also attempts to overhaul the criteria for granting asylum to the few who would still be eligible. For instance, it proposes that political asylum can only be won if your political opinion relates to a government's control. This means that a Saudi women's rights advocate who didn't advocate for a regime change wouldn't be eligible for asylum due to persecution on account of a political opinion. The bill further complicates things for LGBTQIA+ folks, demanding that asylum applicants prove that laws targeting their protected characteristics would personally be used against them. The proposal is particularly harsh on those who do manage to reach ports of entry to seek asylum. It attempts to prevent them from accessing the asylum process by banning the use of the CBP One app. And even if they reach a port of entry, they could face return to Mexico or be held in detention centers, courtesy of the Department of Homeland Security. Speaking of detention, this bill seeks to enhance its use by commanding DHS to restart family detention, even reopening detention centers shut down during the Biden administration, like the infamous Irwin Detention Center. Additionally, this bill tries to slash the protections available to non-Mexican unaccompanied children and to tie up nonprofit organizations aiding immigrants. It even proposes to dismantle the use of humanitarian parole, as it has been since the 1950s. Finally, it tasks the State Department with negotiating with Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to establish so-called safe third country agreements, aiming to block migrants from remaining in the US. On the immigration enforcement front, the proposal would drastically ramp up border control, asking for 2,500 new Border Patrol agents, and it would allow DHS to bypass all laws barring the Constitution to build and operate border infrastructure. The bill also aims to significantly increase surveillance and introduce a new crime of violating visa conditions. Lastly, the bill aims to overhaul the current employment verification process by mandating the use of e-verify across the country. Now, what if this bill passed? The real problem here is the refusal to acknowledge that migration issues cannot be resolved through enforcement alone. Removing lawful routes to migration while intensifying enforcement could lead to riskier paths for migrants, and doesn't address the root causes of why people are seeking safety in the US. What we need is to invest in our humanitarian protection systems. Instead of seeking an overnight solution, Congress should focus on improving our humanitarian protection system to make it more effective. After all, we stand as a beacon of freedom and safety for people around the world, and we should strive to keep it that way.